This is the Ryen Russillo podcast presented by FanDuel.
Do you think Nagy makes the season then? Do you think he lasts?
I do. This isn't a group that fires people in the middle of seasons, even when they're supposed to be. Like the Mark Trestman era was I won't say it's as bad as it gets because I've seen some bad stuff, but when Mark Trestman lost the locker room pretty much 2 weeks into the season, you thought to yourself, all right, they're not buying into the CFL guy stuff, so what are you going to do here? And he had another year. So I don't believe that Matt Nagy is going to be fired. I would be surprised if he would be fired, but I wouldn't disagree with it because yesterday, to me, it's a culmination of things. You've had enough quarterbacks, and now do I want you to ruin this one? Do I want you to not protect this one? I want you to not roll the pocket and play to his strengths? You already got that with Mitch Trubisky, right? If this guy is a highly idealized version of what Mitch Trubisky should have been, Mitch had his 1 year in North Carolina. This guy's 2-time Offensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten. That's a damn good conference, right? So if you can't get what you need to get out of him going forward, these next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be very, very key, not only for Matt Nagy, but I think for Justin Fields too, because we saw it with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson got hit a whole bunch in that first game. Second game, Zach was moving around. What happened? 3 interceptions in the first half. So you got to be very careful with these guys. You got to play to their strengths. And I don't think Matt Nagy wants his system to be the star instead of his players starring in a system that is built around them.
That sounds personal, and I'm not saying you're wrong. You know what I mean? But like to say that I don't want to adjust what I'm doing to tailor this to his strengths, like that in itself, if that's true, then he shouldn't be in the building.
I mean, if you've watched Bears football, and I know a lot of people haven't and don't need to.
I watched the whole game yesterday because I wanted to see him end because DirecTV jammed me up until the fourth quarter. And at that point, I think I'd had it pretty discovered. Yeah. I mean, look, the protection for anybody that's listening, protection was terrible. The protection schemes for what they were trying to do didn't make a ton of sense. We could talk about the lack of motion. We could talk about the personnel groupings and all that different stuff. Like my point in the open again was that, hey, Fields wasn't good. I mean, it was pretty bad. But I'm not like sitting here going, now I have a full evaluation of who Justin Fields is after a bad game where it didn't look like anything was matched. But that's a pretty damning statement if that's true, that Nagy would rather not adapt to then, but again, these guys are stubborn. So go ahead.
These are the results, though. I mean, whether it be Andy Dalton or Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky, Matt Nagy, when he first got here, was celebrated Coach of the Year, right? I mean, we saw the offensive prowess. He came out in that first game against the Green Bay Packers, which was a loss on Sunday Night Football. He ran the T formation. Everybody's like, yeah, we finally got an offensive coach here in the city. And since then, the offense has stayed the same, and the points per game have gone down. Now, if Bobby Massey and Charles Leno Jr. are that important to your offense in terms of tackles, then all right, cool. You know what I mean? Then you got it, player. I can't argue with you.
Right.
But if we're talking about a guy who's supposed, like, for instance, the Bill Belichick's, the Greg Popovich's of the world, we've seen great coaches. I'm not saying that Matt Nagy is supposed to be them or is them, but we've seen great coaches adapt. Right, we've seen great coaches in football air it out when they got to run the ball, and when their offense says, you know what, we don't have it as efficient a passing game as we used to. We gotta run this thing. Greg Popovich, we've seen the space and pace, and we've also seen, hey, we're gonna dump it down low and give Tim Duncan or whoever the ball 20 straight times because that's what we have to do to win. This is a guy who said, I'm not going to come here, run twice and pass, run and then pass and then punt. Like he said this to Chicago media before. Okay, so if your offense is telling you, you're going to have to run, and then pass, and then maybe punt, that's what it is to win the game. And on top of it, your general manager went out and spent a whole bunch of money and draft capital on the likes of Khalil Mack. They re-signed Akeem Hicks. I mean, you drafted Roquan Smith. You got to follow the money. The money is on the defensive side of the football. Allen Robinson is trying to get paid. This is the lowest output that he's had in the first 3 weeks of his career. He's got 84 yards in 3 games. So you got to know where your strengths are. And I feel like he's the kind of guy that if they win or when they won, it was, hey, look at how cool my system is. And now when you're taking your lumps, you gotta pull it back and say, okay, not just hand over play calling duties, because that's what's going to happen. Bill Lazor at some point is going to be given the play calling duties like this. This has happened before in this regime, in this run with this crew with Matt Nagy. So I feel like his system has to be the star, because when they do win or when they are successful, he can sit back and say, hey, man, I know how to do this. When he first got here, Ryan, the Mitchell Trubisky era, started with this offense being the 101 version, right? Like it was a college, there was college courses. This is just the offense in the 101 version. Well, guess what, man? We are in community college now. We are sitting here with a cafeteria of bad frozen pizzas waiting to go to some psych class that ain't going to get you a job. That's what's happening right now with Matt Nagy's offense. And the proof is in the pudding. Like 48 yards, that's impossible. 11 of us can go out there and get 40 yards, maybe 35, 48. The biggest play was a 44-yard pass interference play when Justin Fields said, fuck it, and threw it down the field because he was tired of getting his head beat in. Like they ran misdirection one time, and that was on sack number 7. Like Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett was sitting there like, wait, yeah, you're going to get the dude that's cooked in Jason Peters and put him in front of me, and then Jermaine Ifedi, who's bounced around, and then put him in front of me and think all I got to do is get to that point. There was no launch angle difference. Like Justin Fields was playing Andy Dalton's game plan. And the national pundits and everybody out there looking like there is a such thing as out of town stupid, right? Like we don't watch everybody else's games. And when we when we tune into somebody else's games, go, okay, I got it. I got 3 hours of what I needed to see. Bears fans have been watching this for 3 years. And then he says in the press conference, Ryan, well, it's about the whys. We got to go figure out the whys. Well, guess what, player? The why might be you. At some point, the why has to be you. Right? If every roommate you got is a bad roommate, you might be the bad roommate. So I'm sitting back in the cut waiting for Matt Nagy to come out because Tuesday's gonna come around and we're gonna talk about it again, and it's gonna be we're on to the Lions. Well, no, tell me what the why was. Tell me what you found out. Because if there's one thing that's for sure, this organization cannot they can't withstand another broken offense, broken quarterback, people not wanting to come here because the offense sucks, or having to pay more to wide receivers or more to tight ends or more to tackles and pay over what you want to pay, market value, because of what's happened here offensively. It's just not a good feeling right now.
There's nothing to follow up on that. That was terrific, man. Make sure you check out.
I'm angry, brother. I'm angry. I'm smiling. I'm smiling to keep from crying right now, man.
That was really well done. The Full Go with Jason Goff out of Chicago, part of the Ringer and Spotify. New podcast. Happy to have him, man.